Okay, so we got the early chapter 183 spoilers, and Hakari's domain expansion is being revealed in this chapter and explained, but it's apparently super complex and confusing because right off the bat, Miyamura is saying that this is the best the translator could come up with since the leaker themselves haven't fully understood Hakari's curse technique. And like the only time I see this stuff with like leaks or anything is usually with Jujutsu Kaisen, and it goes back to Gege sometimes making these abilities unnecessarily complicated. And as I'm sure a lot of us speculated that Hakari would have a particularly complicated ability, especially since it's been so secretive and ambiguous up until this point. But anyway, let me bring you up to speed real quick. So Hakari was fighting Charles in the previous chapter, and after Charles had started using his curse technique on Hakari, which allowed him to see like 1 second into the future, the more blood that he drew from him, and eventually got to the point of where he could see 2 seconds into the future. And Hakari, I guess, was like, okay, let me just take care of this guy before this gets out of control, and he just activates his domain expansion at the end of the chapter. So let's get into it. Hakari's curse technique slash domain is something about a romance manga and a pachinko machine. Now, before I go any further, let me just explain what pachinko is. So it's a type of a mechanical game originating in Japan that is used as a form of recreational arcade game and much more frequently as a gambling device, filling a niche in Japanese gambling comparable to that of a slot machine in Western gambling, as a form of low stakes, low strategy gambling. So yeah, it's pretty much like a Japanese slot machine, but more hands-on, I guess, because you like drop a metal ball and it like cascades down and it might fall into a specific notch, and if it does, then you like win. And like slot machines, they have themes to them as well. There could be like a Dragon Ball themed pachinko machine. And apparently this one has a romance manga theme, and this romance manga, I guess, is something that exists within the Jujutsu Kaisen world. So numbers from 1 to 7 are assigned to a character. As Hakari pops a ball, characters appear, and some sort of romantic drama play begins in the domain. Hakari's attack depends on the success of the content of that drama, ? Hakari's curse technique is kind of similar to pachinko, but so far the effects of Hakari's curse technique has probably not been activated. So let's go a little further into it. Like a slot machine, the game is won if 3 patterns are aligned. If Hakari hits the jackpot, he will be given the bonus, but it is unknown what that bonus is. So Hakari repeatedly draws probabilities, and the results become an attack, like the one which he summons the train doors. This is referencing when he was fighting against Yuji in chapter 155. That was like the first glimpse that we got of Hakari's curse technique, and the stage in the domain changes depending on the reach action. So Miyamura has supplied us with what the reach action is. So in pachinko, there is an image that makes you expect a jackpot, and it is called a reach action. There are several different reach actions, each with a different probability of actually hitting the jackpot. And then there's the chance up, which even in lower possibility reaches, an event may appear that slightly increases the likelihood slash probability of a jackpot, like how the heroine of a romance manga comes in clutch. So I know this is all confusing, maybe kind of cool to some of you, maybe doesn't make sense, but let me go over one more translation of these leaks. So there's apparently a spread, 2 pages, fully explaining what Hakari's curse technique slash domain is in this chapter, and Hakari plays pachinko within this domain. And there's numbers 1 through 7. And character introductions, I guess, from this romance manga. Number 3 is the female lead, and number 7 is the male lead. So I guess Hakari plays pachinko, and depending on the results of his individual plays, a number will be applied to each person within the domain. And then that number correlates to which role they will be playing in this romance manga scenario. So there's also like multiple stages to this thing, and being surrounded by pachinko machines is what's referred to as the regular stage. Hakari manipulates the pachinko balls, and they ricochet around like rockets. There's a preview first, and the characters appear on the stage like phantoms and perform a drama if it's successful. If it's not, it goes back to the regular stage. So I guess this lines up with what Hakari's henchmen were talking about in chapter 153 when they were like explaining the Fight Club to Yuji. They said there's unscripted matches like today's tournament, and there's scripted matches. Boss fixes those. So I guess, as we speculated about last year when that stuff was explained to us, did indeed have something to do with Hakari's curse technique, and I guess now more so his domain ability. But anyway, apparently they'll have to wait until a jackpot is hit. There's an anticipation level of 80% ahead, a performance that those who watch romance manga or TV series will understand. I am not one of them, but it seems to have failed. And Charles attacks and pierces Hakari's left side, but 3 has been prepared. So 3 was the female lead. A fierce kick to Charles's nose, luring him in, and the probability shifts. Basically, seems like Hakari's domain is a pachinko machine, specifically one that is part of a crossover with a romance manga. Hakari can control the pachinko balls, and the effects of the domain are determined by how well Hakari does at pachinko. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. And I know it's confusing and difficult to follow when we're just going off of a text-based explanation of it, especially from leakers who don't fully understand it. I mean, it kind of makes sense to me, even though I don't really fully understand pachinko myself, since I am American and I don't really think we have pachinko here. But anyway, we do have like 2 more spoilers as to what could be happening at the end of the chapter. So Charles's G War Staff breaks at the end of the chapter, and it seems like that's it for Charles, and this fight might not continue further into the next chapter. So I guess whatever Hakari is doing here works out for him, and his pachinko playing / romance manga scenario that's playing out works out in his favor, and he eventually defeats Charles because of it. And we also speculated about this in my previous review, that this fight might not be very long, especially because we came off of a very long battle with Akotsu taking on like 4 people, and we more so kind of just wanted to get more introduced to what Hakari's abilities are. We didn't necessarily need him to have this long drawn out battle, especially since it doesn't seem like Charles is that big of like a villain. I mean, he's no chump, but he doesn't really need to be around for that long. And I guess that's what's playing out here. But yeah. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. When the chapter is released on Sunday, I will absolutely make a review for that, and I'm assuming we'll have a much better understanding of it at that point, so I will try my best to give a better explanation of it when it does come out. So please subscribe for that in case you haven't already, and like the video if you liked it, and have a great day. See you in the next one.